Today I wanted to take a look at the Patrie, the super French battleship. This thing is pretty awesome, especially if you can get into a game like this one where there's no carrier and a lot of DDs. You can really bully your way through certain matchups like this. The Patrie has a lot of HP, it's relatively quick, and it allows you to potentially get up and impact these DD engagement. This is nowhere near typical matchmaker. First off, let's be honest here, that's a lot of DDs and a submarine. Most of them are actually going to be on the A cap here. As a battleship, it's pretty scary, but you can push up quickly and engage a lot of these DDs and help win those initial engagements. It's going to help you win a ton of games. That's what we're going to do here. To start with, you want to be looking at what your DDs are doing. Are they getting into positions that are more aggressive to take out the enemy DDs? Or are they playing passive, just trying to stall, spot, passively control cap zones, that kind of thing? A great example is our Shimakaze in the A cap. That's a pretty passive position. Our Marceau on the one line, that's a pretty aggressive position. So if you're going to push in like this, you have to be playing with some pretty aggressive DDs, and you want to support them in whatever they're shooting at. So we're going to try and deal with this Fletcher here. Something you should know about torpedoes, if a small grouping gets spotted like that, think about what teammates spotted them. More than likely, there's a large group of torps on the opposite side of whatever your DD or submarine spotted. Something I could have known or thought about in the moment here. It's okay, we can go down to half HP, no big deal, but you should think about that. If your DD spots one or two torps, you know it's coming from an enemy DD. More than likely, the rest of those torp spreads are on the opposite side, so you should be really aware of that as far as torps coming in. Not going to be a huge deal in this game. We've got up to a very aggressive position that we can basically bully all these DDs out of this A cap here. Our submarine is going to hit a couple torps, and combined with our salvo here, that'll be our first kill. Feels pretty good. In the moment, I didn't even realize that the sub had torps on the way. I was so confused. How did I do that much damage? But AP from these super battleships, and a tier 10 as well, they have enough punching power. 10% is all you get, right, with overpens into destroyers these days. Well, that's still quite a bit of damage with these extremely large caliber shells on a lot of these battleships. And just like that, done 50k damage, and our team is pushing pretty aggressively here into the A cap, and we want to support that. We want to be engaging with that. Of course, very difficult to do in a carrier game, so don't be trying this necessarily in a CV game. After this one's over, I'll show you more what I'm trying to do in the Patrie in a carrier game. I got a little clip of the end of a really good game that I had actually against some carriers. It's very different. You have to play them very differently. That's what I love about World of Warships too. No two matches are identical. You always have to be problem solving, thinking ahead, trying to figure out how to get the most value out of your ship without dying, of course. So pushing the one line here, a little bit dangerous, but you can see our Marceau is actually turning around to come help us. And a Fletcher gets spotted. Notice our DDs are doing a pretty good job in the A cap, and the instant a DD is spotted, I'm shooting at it, right? That's the power of these battleships in these engagements. Look at how healthy all the DDs are on my team on this flank. It's not going to happen all the time. Certainly random teammates, you can't really count on them all the time. In this case, I did get pretty fortunate when it comes to teammates, but you do want to be looking for those opportunities in a battleship, especially these super BBs. It's very tempting to just sit on the back lines. You have so much range, and these ships are pretty good at range, to just use that. But if you are able to push in, just look at how we've won this side of the map already. The Musashi running away, the Monty stuck in a very difficult spot. Really, there's only a submarine left to deal with, and that's not too bad considering how many DDs we have here as support. I'm always going to be trying to use my ASW to deal with that guy as quickly as we possibly can. Monty coming out flat broadside on around half HP. As a super battleship, you'd hope that you're going to do enough damage to kill him. Actually, he's much lower than half HP, but we do manage to get a Citadel in and take him out. There's a Confederate already, and 3 kills. So why stop now? Let's keep pushing, try and deal with this Musashi really quick. And just like that, the game is pretty much won. You can see how our team has done a great job on the C flank as well, and the enemy team is really just locked into the middle of the map, and that's it. Stuck in a crossfire, and that'll be quickly game over. Against a Musashi or a Yamato, these Japanese battleships, you can go for cheek shots. I'm getting a little greedy for that here. The rear cheek there, where You shoot just underneath that rear turret. There's an angled plate to the Citadel that you can sometimes get Citadel hits in at that angle. We did not get that, but it's more important we do good damage in on this submarine. He's almost dead. We want to make use of our decent ASW. Battleships, of course, do a lot of damage from those planes. They just don't really have the ability to spot the subs. So that's what we got to rely on our teammates for, certainly. And a double strike Kraken to finish things out. That's pretty much all of this game had to offer. An extremely fast Kraken in the Patrie. A lot of fun. I was having a bit of a rough day up to this point, so it felt pretty nice to have such a decisive win that we contributed to, especially in a battleship. Back to the Patrie, though. When you're in a game like this one, where there are carriers, where the enemy team is playing pretty passive, it's going to be difficult to push up and do a lot of good damage that way. The enemy team isn't going to give you those easy hits like we had in that first game, where the enemy team also pushed in. That's really where you get those big, impactful early game starts like that, is when the enemy team also pushes in. If they play passive like they have here, if you push into that, especially if you push into spawn where there's no cover, you're just going to die. I talk about this quite often. If you push the enemy spawn, expect to die, and more often than not, lose your team the match. So we're not going to do that here. Our team has pretty good control in the south, but with the carrier's focus, our guys are pretty low here. So we need to be giving up some of our ground here. It's not worth just hanging on to it and then dying for it. Cross maps are, of course, a great option for the Patrie, especially if you're not as good at aiming. The dispersion can be a little wonky, as we saw there against the Stalingrad, but what's really nice is the shell velocity. So if you're someone who wants to take those cross-map shots, and you're not particularly confident in the Montana, Vermont, Yamato, these kinds of ships that are pretty good at those long-range shots because of their accuracy, not the shell velocity. It can be very difficult to lead. Patrie is very nice to do those cross-map shots with. You don't have to lead that excessively far. And now we're just going to kite away. We do have a Schlieffen to deal with. Unfortunately, all our support here did end up dying to either the carrier or this Schlieffen. We pushed a little bit too aggressive as a group, I would probably say. But notice our team is doing great work in the north, right? That's where most of the enemy team is. That's where most of our team is. We just have to win this 1v1 versus this Schlieffen, and we should be okay. No promises, though, as the carrier could come try and get us. But notice our range is just outside of being able to hit those two cruisers on the island next to the North Cap there. That's the power of these super battleships. You can be very, very far away and still be well within impacting the battle. I don't really want to be doing this all the time. That's why I showed you that initial game first. I don't want to be just sniping in this ship or any battleship. It's a great way to lose a lot of games. But there are times where it calls for it. Like here, where we're left alone. We don't really know what's around. There could be a battleship, could be a DD, and the carrier could come after us. And we have very little HP left. We can't really push in all of that aggressively here. But I do want to help my teammates in the north. Sometimes you'll know that your flank isn't as important as the enemy's flank, like it is here. This is just a situation where I don't need to fight this particularly hard, but what's really important is for our team to win that north side and deal with that Stalingrad. So that's what I'm trying to always keep my eye on. Is there a shot available? That island is pretty tall, but if he keeps reversing, which often happens, like I showed in the Salem video earlier today, I do it too. We all do it. We get distracted in our cruiser on our island, and we reverse out of cover without knowing it. As a battleship player, you want to be there to say hello. And just like the Yamato player was there to say hi to me in that game, we're here to say hi to this Stalingrad finally. The DD is here. The carrier is here. We'll use our last heal and then try and stay alive. Even if we die, though, we're in pretty good shape to win this game, though. Pretty solid one as well, up over 200k. Always feels nice. And maybe we can live through this CV strike. The Patrie has all right AA, but as we all know, you can't really be relying on that in too many matches. Done what, 67, nearly 70,000 damage to planes this game, and he seemingly is coming with full squads anyway. So not a lot to do there, but we do manage to live through the strike, and really all that was spotting us was the plane. So we go dark, and we should be living. Patrie is really an awesome super battleship. It doesn't have any real gimmick to it, but it does have 12 reasonably accurate guns. And as we all know, I really enjoy those 12-gun battleships. I find them to be a little more consistent, especially than those 6-gun counterparts. As for the build, I'm going a little bit crazy here. I've actually got a bit of an AA-focused build. I know I just said that they're not that useful AA, but given how many games in a row I was getting the other day with carriers in my games, honestly, deservedly focusing on me, typically was in these higher tier, very powerful battleships. I wanted a little bit of AA, so that's why I went with that on the commander. I found myself dying to carriers more often than I was to just regular shells, right? So didn't need the extra tankiness from the captain against surface ships. I wanted it against carriers. That's the idea. I'm not sure how well it worked though. The upgrades though are pretty standard. I do enjoy using these. Steering gears over propulsion here, mainly because I have engine boost. I don't need to necessarily take propulsion. If I need that extra burst of speed, I'll get it out of this engine boost, whereas the extra rudder can certainly help you stay alive when you're trying to dodge a lot of people shooting at you all at once. It is a big ship, but you can actually dodge. Here's the captain again. Not sure I necessarily recommend this. Instead of the AA stuff, you probably want to take basic survivability, maybe grease the gears or vigilance, something like that would be probably more impactful for a regular game. But I was just getting sick and tired of the carriers, if I got to be honest with you. So I had to try something. Instead of just sitting there complaining the whole time. So that's the Patrie. It's a pretty fun time when you get the right matchmaker, allowing you to push in, and it's so much fun pushing in these battleships. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and have a great rest of your day.